the 419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome into the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
There was just a little bit of a growl there.
I'm just gonna just feel it out. See what works.
Yeah.
You guys gonna change your names at all?
No.
This is something we decided to do together?
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Is that what we talked about?
Yeah, that's right.
Did we talk about that?
No,
it was
we
in the
didn't.
spreadsheet.
It was in the spreadsheet, right.
I must.
That's so rude.
Oh, man.
We're flat today. It's we got to pick it up.
We got to pick it up. It's Wellness Wednesday.
That's right.
Presented by
We're
our
not
friends
well.
at WorkSpring.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about men's health.
Now, how healthy are you two?
Not
Not
Same.
mentally. I'm talking physically.
fine.
I'm not.
Yeah, you're good?
Yeah. I might be better on the mental side than I am the physical side, but that's debatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I care so little for men that I don't know, like at your ages, and granted you're both younger than me, women of a certain age,
Yeah.
of which I am, there's things that happen,
Yeah.
almost automatically that we try to combat against. But I honestly am, this is sincere for a moment, I don't know the same thing that happens to men at your ages. What are you supposed to be doing for yourselves right now?
Committing
than
committing
moisturizing.
to a quicker. Oh shoot. Committing to a quicker death is what.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I hope
Okay.
so. Yeah.
I heard, maybe I don't know if we talked about this on the show yet, but I had heard that if you can survive to 2036, that the advances in medical technology will allow you to live to 125.
Who wants to live that long?
That's what I said. That was my response.
Who wants to live till 2036?
I was like, all right, I got 10 years left.
Yeah.
At this pace,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
I'm just purchasing longer extension cords to get my electronics closer to my bathtub.
But legitimate question, maybe Cory or Noah can answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of things that are guaranteed to happen, I don't know of any, but I do know that risk of cancer and things like that start to increase, and so the colonoscopies and all of those become a regular thing when you hit 50. So
I think
I've got some time.
they can't be that
Yeah.
dissimilar, right? I think that it's supposed to, back in the day, right? It was about running all the time. And now they're talking about it having more muscle, paying more attention to muscle growth.
To help your bones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not an
Which, who
epiphany.
knew those were connected?
No.
Right.
We have a lot to learn from this. But I will tell you, getting started again or
Yeah.
healing, a bounce back, that is the hidden.
I mean, you were a student athlete, so you would run soccer games
Yes.
endlessly.
That's
Do
a
you
little-
think that you could run for the length of a soccer game right now?
I'm not sure I could run the length of this desk.
That's I've used
But the
this
more
line.
important thing is I don't have the will to try. That's what gets you.
I've used this line that I can do anything today that I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
I just can't do anything after that.
But didn't we
Right,
have
I
a
can play a
conversation
basketball
of
game.
No, you can't though. You guys
No,
can't. You'll break ankles, you'll jam fingers,
Sure.
you'll break bones, and then you'll be on the couch for a week.
That
sounds wonderful.
That's what I just said.
With your poor, long-suffering wife, to have
Yeah.
to take care of you then.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got a jam-packed show with
Okay.
some actual experts
Yes.
in this area.
Let's see what's happening.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Cory Panning is going to join us, and then Noah Macke from WorkSpring will be with us as well. And then we'll wrap up the show for the first time
Yep.
with the
Tighten up.
interim CEO of WGTE, Dale Thornton, will join us. The boss is showing up.
That's right.
Our boss
This is, I believe he's here for a performance review.
Okay.
Excellent. Ours or his?
You know what? That's a good question.
Maybe we can put some complaints in about Shane for you, Matt, to Dale.
We'll have to dedicate the entire show to it.
Sorry, we're gonna cancel Cory and Noah. We're
Yeah.
gonna spend the entire show complaining about Shane. That sounds great. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will dive into the topic of men's health here on the 419, powered by WGTE.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. It is a Wellness Wednesday presented by our friends at WorkSpring. We're joined now by wellness consultant Noah Macke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
How did you get to WorkSpring? Maybe let's kind of dive there, talk about your background, and then we'll get into the topic of men's health.
Absolutely. So I would actually say I have a less conventional route than most people. I went to Miami University for my undergraduate degree, which
Love
I got.
and honor, my friend.
Yes, absolutely. Great year to be a Red Hawk.
Did you go there?
I did.
Jesus.
Yeah.
our
We're up
listeners.
here in enemy territory right now with BG and Toledo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Miami University. I got my undergraduate degree in inclusive special education. And immediately after graduating back in 22, I went on to get my master's of education in applied behavior analysis at the University of Cincinnati. So, upon finishing my master's program, I realized, maybe I kind of wanted to, rather than go into the education world, approach the corporate world and see, what was out there for me. So I started off at
You're like, this is going to be too much money in education.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
right.
even know how to spend it.
Exactly.
Right.
It was just too much coming at me
I
all
get
at
it.
once.
I
That's
get
right.
it, man.
Or you realize
essentially-
partway through, like, I don't even like kids.
Right. Or people.
Yeah, that's right. Let me get away from this.
Yeah, something like that. So, I stepped I moved up to Columbus. I worked at an employee benefits broker. And then after a couple years there, I transitioned over to WorkSpring. I've been here for about 2 years now. And it really is just an incredible team, a ton of incredible people. It's been really, really great.
I think folks in this, we've got a habit in Toledo, and I imagine every city is sort of like this when you've got an organization that has the reputation and the brand that WorkSpring, formerly the Employers Association, has here in Northwest Ohio. We don't think of it as being anything outside of Northwest Ohio, right? And so the more I learned about it, I'm like, wait a second, you've got people all over the place.
Yeah.
What does WorkSpring look like in Columbus?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have clients all over Columbus.
Who's the least healthy? No, I'm just kidding.
I can't say that. I can't say
That's
that.
just a joke.
Something about PHI or something like
Something
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
But essentially, I have clients all over and all around Columbus, going down to even, Scioto County. But really, I have clients in architecture. I have clients in, different manufacturing, different producing different products.
Let me ask you a question. Talk to me a little about the similarities and differences. To your point that you're making, there's a spectrum of clients that you serve. We are all, bipedal, largely carbon-based. So we have to have some similarities, but some differences too. What are those?
When it comes to similarities, I think one of the similarities I see across all my clients is that wellness in general is really kind of stepping more to the forefront than I feel like it really ever has. So you see all of these different HR professionals that I work with, and some of them are more about it than others are, but it is kind of new. But at the end of the day, we want our employees to be happy. We want our employees to be healthy, and there also are monetary incentives that come with that for the companies as well, because when you have a healthier population, you aren't spending as much money on your medical insurance premium, and
If you're a capitalist, you would say that some degree of greed is good, right?
Yeah.
So is some degree of vanity good in the health world? Of course, there's a much larger prize, which is just general wellness.
Yeah.
But is a little bit of vanity good, kind of as a motivator?
I mean, I would say so. When you go out there and you are a company that's trying to attract talent, you want talent that is happy, that is healthy, that appeals to, all of these potential prospects out there. So I do think it's beneficial. To some
degree.
extent. Obviously, to some extent. You don't want to overdo it.
I overdo it.
Don't we all?
Talk to me a little bit about it. Is Men's Health Month. What have you done the first 2 days to sell? I'm just kidding. What talk to me about men's health? We were talking a little bit before you came on. The research we did, which is a limited Google search. You could probably tell by my physique. That's how I focus on wellness. But men's health is what conceptually, and also what sort of the Men's Health Month should look like.
Yeah. Well, when I think of men's health, I think primarily, when it comes to Men's Health Month, it's about spreading awareness, first and foremost. And then also, encouraging the men in your life to put more value into their health and their wellness. When I think about what Men's Health Month is really about, outside of that, I think it kind of has three faces.
Okay.
I think one of them is preventive care. We all need to be doing preventive care, but men are, actually less likely to go out there to have a relationship with their primary care provider.
Leave it alone, Matt.
Okay. Yeah.
Matt was going to make a comment about his relationship with his primary care.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I could feel it all the way over here. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Stop it.
All right, so preventative?
Preventive care, I think is one of the faces there. Men's mental health. We all know the stigma that surrounds men's mental health. Growing up, you're taught that you need to be, stoic, you need to be steady, you can't really show emotion. You're just supposed to be the rock for the people in your life. That's kind of what we're taught when we're growing up.
Gretchen, that's how you describe me on this show.
A rock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Steady, right?
That was good.
What can people do, or what can you do in your role at WorkSpring to encourage people to, or what are you seeing companies do to encourage people to participate in Men's Health Month?
Yeah. With WorkSpring, we actually provide monetary incentives to our employees for getting their preventive care done at any point during their plan year. So that's one thing that companies can do. Some of my clients go above and beyond. They actually say, hey, if you get your preventive care done, we'll help cover your medical premium. So that's one thing that you can do. Obviously, not every company's in the position to do that.
Sure.
But outside of that, it's really about education and educating, our clients and their employees on really what the value is when it comes to preventive care.
There's a piece of this that, I think it sounds like just making sure that men know that it's okay.
Absolutely.
To go to the doctor, to take care of themselves, to take a sick day, to, and I mean, in my world, I just think about with my wife, I am certainly the bigger baby of the two of us, right? So the idea
Really?
that
No.
We always are. We always are.
But I, when I think about somebody who's within a household who's putting everybody else first, right? I naturally go to my wife, and you go to the mom, and she's always kind of doing that. But the reality is, I'm also just as guilty of not taking care of myself and worrying more about, if the kids have something wrong, it's like we're off to the doctor, we're off to urgent care right away.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, look, if it's still here in 3 days, we'll talk about it.
If I'm alive.
And then at the end of 3 days, it's like, I've made it through 3 days.
I needed to see out of both eyes.
Yeah,
And
that's
you've complained
right.
about it. The
I'm
entire
always
time.
interested.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
We've asked this, I think, of multiple guests. It's impossible to not be inundated with, not just fad diets, but just an unbelievable amount of information. And health certainly is one of them. There's a industry about that, and that, again, isn't me sitting on a soapbox. But what resources do you, or tried and true for you, for not just trends, but what we know? I mean, theoretically, we know more about ourselves than we ever have in the history of our planet. But there are people trying to sell you things, and I'm not suggesting they shouldn't. But, how do you track actual information, and where do you get it from?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say first and foremost, there is no right answer when it comes to your health. Exactly. It looks different for everybody.
Sure.
It's really about finding what works for you.
Sure.
But that being said, when I talk to, friends who are interested in health, one of the first things that you can do is you can go to, there's a ton of them online. You want to calculate your caloric intake, your daily caloric intake. And you'll see, you put in your desired weight. If you want to maintain weight, if you want to lose weight, if you want to put on muscle, you can find these calculators online that will tell you exactly how much you need to be eating, how much protein you need to be consuming. So I think that that's always a good place to start. And then I really think it's beneficial for, and this might be a sign of my age, but influencers, not necessarily that any influencer out there is going to have the right answer, but when you kind of inundate yourself in social media and you see, because people my age are always on social media.
Yeah.
So if you can, get your feed to start showing you, different people who are, pursuing the same goals as you, then I think that that's really beneficial.
Motivating.
Yeah, exactly. It's
The biggest
motivating.
influencer to me is our president. How much McDonald's should I be eating? I'm just kidding. That's not the show. I'm just teasing.
I will say there's always healthier options at any fast food
There you go.
restaurant. now.
We're moving on.
So you just gotta be cautious. Yeah.
Yeah. Plenty of citizenship opportunities in Canada. Anyway,
What are, from a, obviously we talk about preventative care, we talk about, prioritizing your own health. What's, one thing that someone can do this month to kind of put themselves on the right path for the rest of the year?
Yeah. For me, when I first started getting into exercise, one thing that worked for me was just saying, okay, start out with 3 days a week. That's your goal. You don't have to be in the gym every single day. Just 3 days a week, at least 30 minutes. Just build a base. And I actually heard you guys talking about it. I think when it comes to exercise, the building momentum is one of the most important things that you can do. Because once you, fall off the wagon,
yes.
getting back on and getting back into the routine, those first couple of days are always the hardest.
especially as you ascend into
Yeah.
age. Yep.
100%.
Well, I'm an all or nothing person, right? So when I was biking, it was 20 miles a day, 7 days a week.
Or you're on the couch.
And then winter hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I can't be outside 7 days a week. So I'm just going to do 0. And then trying to get back to it was like near impossible.
You're like, I never really did that.
That's right.
Right.
But if you said, hey, do this 2 days a week, 3 days a week.
Yeah, just make something
And you start to feel better and you start
Yeah.
to maybe see some results. then-
Moderation is for
Exactly.
losers. And I think some of it is honesty. This is probably a very difficult question, and the answer isn't a cookie cutter one. But what does health mean? Like what is the baseline here? And I know, again, that's a large question and different for individual. But how do you set a baseline? You mentioned weight, and weight is just one of the many ways of tracking health. But certainly, I don't think at the top of the pyramid. But how does one know how to set your trajectory towards living a healthier, longer life?
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to what kind of speaks to you a little bit. Health at the end of the day is what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you feel good. So, one
Donuts are
thing,
healthy.
Yeah.
No.
one thing that I always keep in mind when I'm struggling to get motivated for the gym is that I've never regretted the way that I feel after working out. Because, when you do work out, it floods your brain with dopamine.
Yeah.
And so it's stuff like that. It's about what makes you happy and what is going to make you feel good. And what's going to make you feel like you're ready to perform your best at work. What's going to make you feel best when you wake up in the morning. That's kind of what I see health as.
We're talking with Noah Macke, a wellness consultant with WorkSpring here on a Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring on the 419. What, at the end of a day, at the end of a week, what gives you the encouragement to come back and keep doing this, right? Where do you find joy in your work?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it's the interactions that I have with employees. There's been times in the past where I've delivered, we call them educational sessions, where we just come in, there's a topic, we present on it, we answer questions, we put them in workshops, that kind of stuff. But I remember, one time I delivered a stress management presentation, and afterwards somebody came up to me and he was like, "Hey, I really needed this. I just bought a house with my dad, and my dad started getting sick, and so he couldn't help me
Rehab it?
rehab it. So he's like, I've been putting in hours, and I feel like I don't have any time for myself. So I think that this is going to give me a really strong base to kind of
That's so nice to hear.
manage. Yeah, exactly. And those kind of interactions mean everything in a job like this.
Well, as we close your segment, if you had just a couple points to get people started, what would those be?
Yeah, I touched a little bit on it earlier, but establish that relationship with your primary care provider. The thing about doing that is that, we can talk about preventive care, we can talk about prostate cancer screenings, when you need to be getting that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to men's health, when you have a primary care provider that's in your corner, they know you, they understand you, you feel more comfortable going to them when you are having health problems, which is going to help prevent, anything from kind of getting to a place where it's a lot worse than it should be. But also, they have that history, that health history on you. So if anything looks out of whack, any of your biometrics look off, they can say, hey, this is something that I want to, dig a little bit deeper into. So I think that that's the first step. They always are going to have recommendations on how you can get into, healthy eating, exercise, all that stuff as well. So.
First step for the month of June.
Love it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Noah.
so much for joining us, Noah. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation around men's health here on a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love PBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the Old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end.
It's a story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
The 419, 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, and 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects. It's the 419, powered by WGTE.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. It is Wellness Wednesday, presented by our friends at WorkSpring. We're joined now by Cory Panning, the Population Health Team Lead at USI Insurance. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
The topic of the day is men's health, and it's Men's Health Month.
Did you have to leave your role as the mayor of Lucky because it became too populous? Just too many buys?
No, we moved to a different city, so you have to be in the city that you live in to be the mayor. So.
I've always been a fan of
That would be a bad
carpetbagging.
campaign position.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Governing from afar.
So we dove into it, but during the break, we discovered that you are also a former mayor, served for 10 years.
I did.
As the mayor of Lucky, Ohio. Let's start there, and then we can get back into men's health. What because you're a young man.
12?
I was, 13 actually.
13,
I think,
yeah.
Yeah.
The limit.
Yeah.
May I ask when you did take the reins, though? You must have been.
I was under 30.
Okay.
It was a bucket list item. Do something good for the community before I turned 30, and.
What did you do instead while you were being mayor?
How many people live in Lucky?
About 1,100.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Small, quaint town. Great
And you were
place
there.
to be.
You were the mayor for 10 years.
8 years as mayor, 2 years on council.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, you say this was a bucket list item, do something good before 30, but you don't, and we'll come back to this, probably same thing we talk about men's health. You don't do something for 10 years because it was a one-time bucket list item, right?
Yeah.
You had to do it for 10 years.
The whole point is,
No,
that is quite the bucket.
Became a passion.
Yeah.
Just when you find something that you enjoy and you can connect with people and be passionate about what you're doing. And I wanted to raise a family in a great community, and there's no better way to do that when you're in charge of that community. So that's really kind of the emphasis of why I started doing that.
And maybe that is the answer, but it does seem unique to me, or really unique if it came out of these two boobs' mouths, that you would have such a goal as a young person, right? many of us, certainly myself included, were trying to figure out during that stretch of time. Like, I'd like to figure it out by 30, which of course I failed. But that idea of giving, or at least, you know, putting your money where your mouth is that just something that is ingrained in your DNA or from your folks, or you are a trailblazer in that way? What motivated you to do something? This is a big deal.
At the age of about 13, we grew up in a small town of Pemberville, the neighboring town to Lucky. My dad was president of village council there. He used to force me to walk to meetings with him twice a month and sit in the audience and take notes. And then on the walk home would ask, what did you take notes on? And I would tell him, and he would say, you're listening for all the wrong things. You can't take any action on any of the stuff you wrote down. As a 13-year-old, that's a pretty big, you know, life lesson, right? Which has carried into my adult life of if you're going to be involved in something, how can you improve it?
Interesting. Well, speaking of improving, we're talking about men's health today because it's Men's Health Month. But talk a little bit about your role, not just the words in it, but what they mean.
Yeah, so big fancy title, Population Health Team Lead, AKA Wellness Consultant. We support, I think I have one of the best roles at USI, where I get to support our clients with helping them develop comprehensive strategies to help their organization and the people that work for them either improve or maintain their health.
Okay.
We are looking at their medical and pharmacy claims data to evaluate where they have gaps in care, where they have opportunities to address those through their benefits design, but also at the end of the day, you're really changing how your people show up to work.
How do you translate just what is, you know, from the perspective of USI, an economic decision to improve these processes into something that makes it meaningful for the employee, for the guy that's sitting at the office? How do you get him to care about the things that you want him to do?
Yeah, I mean, the power of...
Do you remember that question?
Yeah. No, I do, because that's what I do every day, right? It starts with obviously garnering leadership support within the organizations and understanding most of the time it's how much is this person costing my plan, right? Or how much is this risk going to affect my productivity or the morale within the manufacturing plant? When you really tailor the message to make it more relatable, people understand that it's not as difficult or it shouldn't be as burdensome to just go to the doctor once a year or stop down into the break room and check your blood pressure with the blood pressure cup that's sitting at the break table, or also helping to really make the healthy choice the easy choice when it comes to showing up to work.
Well, you mentioned data. It's certainly possible, and I know that we all strive to have a balance, but would you describe yourself as a data person or a people person? You served a community. It sounds like your walk back from your dad was talking about actionable items for the people you serve. Data does drive strategy, right? But still, if you had to pick one of the two, are you a data person or are you a people person?
Definitely a people person.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, there's a person behind that number.
That's right.
Right? And so we could talk all day about data and what it says and even national statistics on what a healthy range is for your biometrics, but there's a person behind all those numbers.
That's right.
And they all have a story. They all have a life. They have situations. How do you create programs to adapt to where you're at in that spectrum? The data will support only so much, but in order to actually get people to not feel like they don't have a place, that's where you have to really get that personal connection with that individual.
We were just talking with Noah about the importance of having a relationship or starting a relationship with your primary care physician. What does the data tell you about people that do and don't do that, if it's available?
Yeah, it is, and that is one of the most important first steps, is having a relationship with a primary care provider. And when you don't, you tend to have sicker, more chronic conditions. People are often dealing with multiple chronic conditions, and then when you do go to the doctor or to the emergency room because you don't have a PCP, you're leaving with a list of things that you have to focus on, and then where do you start when you have multiple, right? When you have that connection and relationship with the primary care, they're able to really break that down into a digestible action plan for you in what you should be focused on first, second, third, but ultimately it's your choice, right? The power of choice that you have with your health is so important. But the data does suggest if you are not connected with a PCP, you are likely going to have multiple things you're dealing with.
We had this conversation, I think, almost every Wednesday, or at least I ask a similar question almost every Wednesday. Why is this a responsibility of an employer to, to encourage people to go see their primary care physician or other health and wellness things?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had this conversation a lot recently with some of my clients because I've been working with them for years. And it's, we do the same stuff year after year after year, and we're seeing not much movement. There's only so far you can hold your employee's hand in their healthcare journey, but it's important for the employer to look at it from the aspect of, do you have all the right tools and resources available to that member? Also goes beyond just that employee. It goes to their family members that might be enrolled in their benefits, or their spouse, or their dependents. Do they have the right type of tools to manage that chronic condition of high blood pressure or glucose issues? And is your plan set up in a way where it's affordable for those people to access the care that they need? At
the risk of opening the door to a commercial for USI, which is not my intent of this question, but does every employee-sponsored health plan have a wellness consultant, a population health team lead attached to it?
Not always. It's important that if you don't, some smaller organizations don't have access to all the resources that you might get on a benefits team. But every carrier that you have likely has that member, right? So if you don't have access through your broker partnership, you should be tapping into whoever your medical carrier is to see what person or resources you have to address that need.
How long have you been doing this?
Since 16 years. About.
I'm always curious as to, that's a long time, certainly in the modern world. How do you stay motivated? I think that you just said something that is was certainly intuitive to me. There's only so much you can do to encourage others, right? And we are not that sophisticated of a species, despite our self-congratulatory nature. So how do you keep driving to do this? It has to be feel a little bit like Sisyphus, right?
Honestly, the role that I have is, I often explain my consulting work as a lean HR team that we're working with is handing me a bomb that's about to go off in their organization, right? They don't know how to fix it, or they don't have the time to fix it. So they hand it to me and I fix it, and I give it back to them with the bow tied, and I say, unwrap this package, and when it's about to go off again, hand it back and I'll fix it again. I get to work with so many unique individuals and companies that every day is different.
Okay.
It's not the same, tracking down gaps in care and things like that. We're really, I might be on one meeting where we're talking about someone who went through a biometric screening and they realized they have high blood pressure, so they went to the doctor and now they're on medicine, or somebody who's encouraged by the lunch and learn that their organization's providing on men's health this month, right? Or just hearing how wellness can really improve not only individual but whole companies.
If you get a new client, I'm sorry, Gretchen, go ahead.
Why are men so insufferable about their health? A.
I'm glad
and B.
I thought that was stopping the insufferable.
No, so insufferable, period. But what does your research data, what are the prior programs and things you put in place are successful to get at this, to what do we understand about it? Because it is a thing, right?
Yeah.
And what do we understand about how to get through it? And people in their lives, get to themselves, whatever, to address these concerns before they become catastrophic.
Well, back to your earlier question about does data really drive those decisions? It does. We'll look at organizational data to see what are the top risks. If, let's for example say it's lack of PCP engagement, we'll develop a really comprehensive strategy to get people to do that. Focus on that for weeks on end to actually get people to go. Incentives tie into that, whether that's a reduction in their medical premium cost or setting up sessions one-on-one where the less tech advanced male employee can come and say, I don't know how to find a doctor. My wife usually does it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going until she tells me that I have an appointment and she's driving me there. We really,
Insufferable.
yeah, right? Like but I think the problem is though, is the barriers that most men say they face is
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
Don't want to know if I'm unhealthy.
Right.
Or if I'm given the diagnosis,
Not going to do anything.
that's the end,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like I'm gonna die, or or I'm not gonna take that medication, even though it may help me.
What do you guys do for the other end? So you encourage people to go to their primary care physician. You want everyone to go, and then they go and they're disappointed. What do you do with the docs to make sure that when someone goes, that their questions are answered, or they're not rushed out, or that, you know what I mean, so that it's a meaningful
15
experience.
minutes as they stop in.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that's
a good question.
The primary care world has changed drastically. You have access to almost any type of provider that you want in today's society through virtual visits. If your PCP is not asking those questions and it is a rush in, rush out, maybe that's not the right type of PCP for you. But equipping that member with a list of questions they should be asking when they go to the doctor is really important. Also understanding that if you take that list of questions, ask them.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there and put them in your pocket. You have to take ownership when you're in that environment.
Kevin, you've enjoyed Russian PCP multiple times. Yeah.
That's right.
It's always funny to look back on things that we had once held as tried and true and now know that they're not. Like you're having a baby, you put them on their back, put them on their belly, eat a lot of butter because it allows for blood to flow through your arteries more smoothly.
That's not true anymore?
Are there, it is for us.
Okay.
Are there things like that? Again, not to poke fun at others because they dealt with the knowledge that they knew at the time, but are there things that are now like, for 16 years is a long run, man.
Yeah.
You've seen some stuff. So
Sure.
you're like 16 years ago, you're like, do not do this.
Sure.
What has some of the changes been, or the most, well, comical feels like in an appropriate way, but what are some of the biggest changes that you've experienced?
I would say the biggest is, even 10 years ago, everybody was offering on-site biometric screenings at their employers. We could go down, get your finger stick, and understand the Know Your Numbers campaign.
I don't mean to put you on the spot
And they don't
here,
do that anymore?
Some do.
but what sadist decided to take a drop of blood from where all your nerve endings?
Yeah,
I'd
that's
rather
true.
have them take blood out of my eye
Yeah.
than that. That's
They can.
insane. Cory, who said to do that?
I think it's the same blood in your entire body.
No, but you could take it out of anywhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same blood.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to know where that person lives.
Not in Lucky or Pemberville.
Thanks to your leadership.
Yeah.
That's right. That was your first.
He got rid of all of
That
them.
was your first
He
campaign.
got rid of all
No more
needles.
finger pricking.
Cory, it's Men's Health Month.
Yeah.
If people can do only one thing, or they're only going to do one thing, and just knowing myself and knowing other men,
You're not going to do it.
we're not going to do that thing either. But if we were to do one thing, what's the one thing we should do?
Get your annual physical.
Eat ice cream. You heard it here first.
On your way to your
Get
annual
your
physical.
annual physical, men.
Get ice cream on your way to the annual
That's
physical.
Or right after.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a break. When we
Cory,
come
thank you.
back, we'll be joined by Dale Thornton, the interim CEO here at WGTE, with a big announcement and we'll do a little employee evaluation.
That's right.
Matt's got something to say about Shane. We'll be right back.
Shame.
On the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. We're joined now by our boss, Dale Thornton. Dale, thank you so much for being here.
I didn't know you guys had any boss at all.
Well,
We don't recognize it.
Yeah, I mean, Shane keeps saying that he's our boss.
Oh,
but we try to fight that every chance we get.
He says anything Dale says, just ignore. That's what he says every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Shane and I will talk afterwards.
Now, who's Shane?
My former employee.
Dale, you have had the, I'll say, privilege of leading
Absolutely.
WGTE for the last almost year.
14 months.
Okay, that's more than a year.
More than a year.
It is still almost a year.
We go by the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What are things that you have learned about WGTE over the last 14 months?
I think the talent that is here is just incredible. I have been impressed by what goes on behind the scenes to produce shows like yours. And I am just terribly impressed with the people who work here. It has been a privilege.
Absolutely.
During that time, around that time, there have been some significant changes into how this business operates, right? From a federal funding standpoint, need for WGTE to get even more local than it already was. Talk to me about what some of those challenges have been and what WGTE is doing to address those.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting was defunded by the federal government a year ago. And they provided community service grants that helped to fund all public media organizations like ours. For us, that meant a $1.2 million loss. And so we've had to become more flexible in how we're approaching things. We have to grow our membership, find new revenue, replace that $1.2 million stream. So for us and for other stations, it's been a very difficult year.
Yeah, we've got some really big news to get to, and I don't want to cut that short. But if you don't mind me asking, although I've certainly enjoyed my time with you, I don't know too much about you. How did you aspire as a young Dale to be to be able to fire Shane? Because I've aspired to do it with just my short amount. No, how did you become who you are today, and why is this meaningful?
It's interesting because I have no public media background.
Okay.
I was in the military for 23 years after college, traveled pretty much all over the world.
Sure.
After that, I worked in civilian healthcare for another 20 years, and then ended up being a city administrator for about 7 years, taught at local college for a couple years, and now I'm doing this.
Sure.
So my wife says that my obituary will say he's finally retired.
Yeah. What a sweet thing to say.
Yeah, she's a very loving woman.
Yes, yeah. I'm sure her greeting card business is flourishing.
She's written it several times.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, let's cut to the chase here. I am, obviously we're privy to it before most. I think that this is really exciting, but I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. Tell me what we're talking about today.
The new affiliation between WBGU and WGTE. WBGU, as a result of the CPB funding loss, found that it was no longer able to continue with their PBS affiliation. So in January, we started to talk about what that meant and how could we support the viewers in their 19-county area so that they would not lose access to PBS programming. And that discussion led to a program service agreement between the two entities that will begin on July 1st.
That's amazing.
So we will begin broadcasting PBS programming over their tower on Channel 27.
It's so exciting.
Talk to me about the net that you now serve. Between the amalgam of the two stations means how much coverage?
Our coverage will expand down to past Lima. We'll have 19 additional counties that we'll be broadcasting into. So it enlarges our footprint considerably.
How big is the footprint? So the addition of, what with the current service is how many counties?
Well, for WGTE, we're in Defiance and as far over as Bryan, up into southern Michigan.
This is a massive net. This is,
When, I guess for people that typically watch Channel 27 down in Bowling Green, will they notice a difference?
They will still get all of the PBS programming that we currently provide. There may be some minor changes, programs that perhaps WGTE WBGU had broadcast, because we have about 5% of our PBS programming that is local. Some of that might change a little bit, but for the most part, they'll have all the PBS programming they're used to.
Talk to me about, we don't ever wear a cynical hat here, so it's a little bit of an uncomfortable one for me, but I'll put it on. For those who believe the market decides what should be on or what sells and what shouldn't, talk to me about why this isn't necessarily a market decision and why this is important to keep these things going.
I think that for those people who turn to public media for culture, the arts, education, the news that they can trust.
You remember the news, right? Wasn't that fun when we used to do that?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But I think all of those things are important in today's world, particularly in today's world.
Truth.
What about people that have memberships at WBGU and people that have memberships at WGTE? How will those memberships change moving forward?
They will have the opportunity to be WGTE members. Some already are, actually. Some have memberships to both. So there is some crossover that currently exists. But they'll continue to have their membership that exists today. And then when it's time to renew, they would renew with WGTE instead of WBGU.
Will GTE viewers see any difference with the addition of WBGU?
No, there will be no difference for our WGTE viewers.
I want to clarify, is WBGU shutting down? Like they're done?
No. They are very much still in operation. In fact, they will be still broadcasting local athletic events, local commencement exercises, still streaming things to the community. They just will not be on their PBS channel anymore.
I'm sure we stole this question from a much more sophisticated individual, but they'll, even with your interesting background, when you think about the people on the other end of the screen, the other end of the radio, the other end of whatever streaming device they choose, who's the audience you think of when you think of a public audience?
If I profiled the audience we have today, it is an older, highly educated, upper middle class to upper middle class community. They're very interested in balanced news.
Yeah.
They're interested in the arts. They're interested in education. So it's a very specific group of individuals that I think are attracted to us. We're trying to broaden that a little bit too by having more local programming, programs like yours, for instance, to attract new viewers, to attract the younger generation, so that we have future members.
Sure.
Is there any belief that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting will come back, that under a different regime, or a different Congress, that the funding would be returned, that this model would be replaced, or stations like WGTE forging ahead regardless?
It still exists in the law. CPB still exists in the law. In today's world, though, stealing a line, it's a world far, far away. We have to get through current times into a different Congress with a different mindset.
How has, at the risk of minimizing the impact that those cuts have had, how have those cuts helped WGTE?
I think we had to reimagine ourselves. We had to become a real business. The $1.2 million was a subsidy that I think we, over the years, and all other stations did, began to rely on, and we didn't probably understand how much it was important to our daily operations. So that's why growing membership is important. Finding new revenue sources is important for us.
There's no silver bullet to any solution, clearly, but if you could pick one and have it be just the way you wanted, what would be something that you would plug in tomorrow to make this public service different? Not necessarily better, but different.
I think some of the programming we have that's coming up that currently doesn't air is going to make a difference. Projects that we're working on now that we have grant funding for, both in the educational side of the house as well as local news and local events. Programs like yours this year that we just started.
WGTE was part of my childhood. It was part of my home. I remember being excited on the telethon. My mom and I would call in to hear my name announced with a half-hour break for membership. So and again, I don't believe the apocalypse is upon us despite all the evidence to it. But why are we potentially not as connected to that part of our lives as we once were? The programming is still great. My daughter's 3. She still plugs into Daniel Tiger. She's not the smartest kid, so maybe she's not an ideal audience. But
genetics works, doesn't it?
Well, it's not their mom's fault. Yeah, works is also a generous statement. But talk to me, Dale. Talk to me about potentially where there was potentially a little bit of a break there.
Well, I think that streaming has made a big difference in this world, and there is so much out there now that there are so many choices, and I think it has divided the audiences. So there are niches that people have chosen for themselves.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you talk about the need for more local programming like ours. We try to do something new and different. I'm curious, when you look at our show, if you had to pick your least favorite part of our show, what is your least favorite thing that we do?
And you can't say Kevin.
You can say Gretchen.
That's the least favorite segment, least favorite moment. What is it?
I think one that we'll probably do towards the end of this program, and that is Gretchen's
wacky quiz.
It's now time.
Well, it's now time for Gretchen's wacky
How about a
quiz.
lead-in?
Yeah, right on time. All right, I'm going to ask 4 rapid-fire questions. Gretchen's going to ask you to describe Toledo in 1 word.
Or BG.
That's right. And then you and Matt will list the 9 best things in Toledo.
Okay.
Question number 1. What's your favorite month of the year?
February.
Is it your birthday?
My birthday.
There you go. Me.
What's the last spontaneous thing you did?
It's legal. You can say with FCC regulations.
Come on the show.
There you go.
Okay. What's your favorite quote about life?
My dad's. Life is not fair.
I like that.
Deal with it.
Complete the sentence, I wish everyone could
be happy.
Oh, Dale.
What's the 1 word you would use to describe the city of Toledo or the region?
Livable.
Okay. Like it.
All right, we're doing 9 together. Ready?
Oh.
9 favorite things. Let's do it.
All right.
Number 1.
Hiking.
All right, love it. Where do you hike?
Any park I can find.
All right, I'll put parks. Great, open green space.
Like that.
Love it. You didn't say what park, sir. This is a open show.
City parks, Mommy Bay.
So good. Yep, Mommy Bay. What else? Favorite things about the region. Where do you like to eat?
Oh, can I say a restaurant?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Sabria.
You tell us what to do. Why you
You're
asking
the
us?
CEO.
Sabria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Owned by Musa and his lovely bride, so we're going to give you 2 extra points for that. All right, we've got 4 left. What do you do? What's a secret place that you like to, or not so popular place that you like to habitually go to in our area?
It is at Levis Commons.
Yeah, all right.
Benchmark.
Yes, very good. Good store. All right. All right, you got 3 left. If you are spending an evening or people are coming into town, what is a cultural experience you want them to experience?
Live Arts Toledo.
Live Arts Toledo.
That's 3 right there.
Okay. We'll give you 2. What's your bride's name?
Francine.
There you go.
Done.
That's 9, brother.
There's the 9.
Yeah,
That was simple.
That was good.
That's not that bad.
You did great.
If people want more information on the announcement today about the partnership between WGTE, WBGU, PBS programming, where can they find it?
WGTE.org.
Awesome.
Very exciting.
Thank you.
This is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. On behalf of the 3 of us, we've really enjoyed it. As we're coming into our final month of season 1, we've really enjoyed the partnership with WGTE.
And
I will say
sorry.
we like we like you have been really impressed with the incredible talent that's inside this building, and we're so blessed to be a part of this.
Well, it has brought us a new audience, and we thank you for that.
I assume Shane left the building. That's why we could say that we've impressed everybody in the building.
That's right. That's right. We think he's outside right now.
Say it fast.
He's chasing the geese around the parking lot.
He finally could serve a purpose.
Thanks, Dale.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this Wednesday edition of the 419.
You laughed with us. You learned with us.
Hi, neighbor.
We made sure your childhood was special. Memories that could only be provided by PBS. For generations, we've given you programs that made a difference. Programs that entertained, informed, and inspired. And today is no different. This is WGTE Public Media in Toledo. It's where you belong.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE, as we wrap up a Wellness Wednesday edition presented by our friends at WorkSpring. Men's health, the topic.
So what are you two going to both do this month as a result of our men's health conversation? Kevin?
Apparently, I'm going to go see my primary care physician.
When was the last time you saw him or her? Women can be doctors. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I did know that, actually. You're the only sexist at the table, apparently. No, this is embarrassing, but I don't have a primary care physician. I go see my cardiologist, just about every 4 months. And so between all of my cardiologists,
I think that counts.
That is the primary focus for me over the last few years.
But he's only looking at your heart.
Right. I don't want them to look at anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, the rest of it is a real mess.
I think the idea of getting actual information, like I don't know what my caloric intake is. I've been trying to keep a better eye on my steps, which I have to admit is a little bit of embarrassing, because as somebody at one time who was pretty active, I now consider like taking a walk exercise. And I don't know if that's good. Of course, walking and getting your steps in is important, but I don't know if that's like hanging it up. You know what I mean? Like, how active should I be? Well, the answer is more active. And I think he said something that is so true, and we all know it to be true, but getting started is absolutely the most difficult thing. The first trip to the gym or whatever the thing is really hard, followed only
by the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth,
yeah.
every
Fourth is
trip.
usually fine. The second week, you're usually okay if you can get the first week going.
Yeah.
So
well, and pacing yourself along the way, right? Not like, hey, I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. It's go a couple of days and just get in the habit of that.
Yeah.
So if you missed any part of the show, you can catch it 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, or 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects channel 30.4. Thanks to our guests for joining us, and thanks to you for being here as well. It's the 419, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.